I was on the fence about whether or not to even join it. I saw the promotions for the first one. Back around the holidays.
Did you try a completely new strategy when you got into that?
I do notice sometimes as the market shifts, there's always these few like runners or strong stocks that seem to get really good continuation. And most of the time they don't. Understanding chart patterns and understanding trend lines and really learning kind of what's in play. It's not broke, don't fix it, and just change one little thing at a time and see how it goes. Information overload can definitely play against you sometimes.
You can't expect to get up to the tee and hit a hole-in-one every time.
That's probably like the go-to trading book, and I really like that one because it's very high level, and I've read a lot of other books that go deep into chart patterns and trend lines and all that, but that one really kind of hits on every point from like a higher level.
Where do you take profits? Because I've been doing this since 2006 and I still don't have a good answer.
Being like a momentum style trader, it's only a matter of time before this thing tanks. I'd rather take a small profit and watch the stock run without me than watch a winner turn into a loser, because having felt both of those feelings, I know which one I don't like to feel.
Okay, everyone, today we have Lewis here, who was the runner-up of our January Go Low or Long Only Portfolio Master Challenge. And I am really excited, so let's just kind of get into it right away. So, hello, thanks for joining us today. The first question I always like to start with is, tell us a little bit about how you got into trading, your experience with trading, and then how you got interested in Trade Ideas as a platform.
Yeah, okay. So I got into trading, I'd say I was kind of always interested in it since I saw that Bradley Cooper movie, Limitless, where he's like trading stocks. Most people have seen it if they're probably my age. Yeah, that kind of got me interested in the stock market in general. And, after I got my first job, I'm an engineer by trade, so I had some money to play around with, and I kind of just got into like going long on stocks like dollar cost averaging, Warren Buffett type investing. And then I started doing like more research and seeing a lot of like YouTube personalities trading on like momentum, low float stocks, and that really caught my attention. So I just kind of decided to play with it, and that was about like 6-8 years ago now, and I've just kind of been playing around with it ever since, learning as much as I can. I think actually I got into Trade Ideas because I saw it promoted on some YouTuber's channel, and I was looking for a really good screener at the time. Or I should say scanner, because Trade Idea is definitely more of a scanner. But I was looking for a really good scanner at the time, and I settled on Trade Ideas because I saw it promoted through some YouTube channel, and haven't really looked back since. So that's kind of how I got into trading in general.
That's awesome. So as an engineer, I think there's going to be a lot of cool questions I have. I think that will be guided to that, because I do think that's an incredibly interesting mindset to approach trading, where these kind of things are looking to get solved in this way. But A, how long have you been using Trade Ideas? And then B, how did you hear about the actual challenge? Did you hear it through what we were talking about at Trade Ideas and emails or like that? Or did you find Trade Ideas as the challenges were kind of going on?
So I've been a premium subscriber for the past, I want to say 2 to 3 years. And I'm kind of always popping in and out of the chat room, Barry Einerson's chat room. So he definitely was promoting it a little bit in that room. And then I saw some of the emails, and I was actually kind of like, I was on the fence about whether or not to even join it. I saw the promotions for the first one, I think, or it might have been the second one, back around the holidays, and I didn't join that one. But I don't know, something I think I was just like, I was doing something a little different in my live account, and I kind of wanted to see how it might play out since there was this competition. I was like, well, let me see how this plays out. If I actually join this competition, maybe I could qualify for an Amazon gift card if it works out. So, just kind of decided to jump in and see what happened.
I'll always love the shout out to my Canadian brother, Barry.
Yes,
We're on different sides of the country, but the two Canadians representing trade ideas, which is great.
right.
And that actually just lead you right up into my next question, which is you said you were doing some you were creating a new strategy and you were wondering if this strategy would help you in the challenge. So in the challenge, were you just doing the same thing that you normally do live, maybe, size differently or something like that? Or did you try a completely new strategy when you got into that?
Yeah, so the main thing I did, so as I mentioned before, I'm like I definitely focus on like momentum, low float stocks as my core strategy. And with what I was doing on the contest, I just kind of wanted to see how, as I'm kind of like scanning through some of the plays that I take, I'm always kind of curious, like what happens if, this looks like it could be a good swing trade. And I'm not much of a swing trader. I'm usually an intraday
Hmm.
um, trader. And so I saw it was, I think, RVSN, we were kind of going back and forth a lot about it during the competition. And I saw that I'd been like following it in my live account pretty much for like a week and a half. And I took a small swing trade on it in my live account. And I really wanted to see how it would work out if I kind of held it long term and or not long term, but just for like a few more days. So that's kind
Yeah.
of why I say I was trying something new. It was kind of just let's see what happens if I took this as a swing trade. And I happen to have I think $400,000 to play with in the simulator. So I said, nah, screw it. See how that goes. I definitely wasn't doing something that risky in my main account. So I just kind of wanted to see how the swing trade would work out.
Well, and we love that, right? And I've mentioned this before because part of our ulterior motive for running these contests is to make paper trading interesting.
Right.
Even and we encourage it all the time. Is even if you are a seasoned professional trader and you have a strategy together, maybe you have that other strategy in the back of your mind that may pair well with what you're doing now, and we know that you should take that and paper trade it and experience how it feels like to trade that live. But to actually do it is a bit different where it is it's kind of boring, I guess. There's no other way to put it, right? If you're just paper
Yes.
trading, there's nothing on the line, there's nothing to gain from it. It's boring. But what we've seen a lot of is people like you're talking about either create new strategies to trade with paper trading to go into a contest with, or kind of tweaks of their own ones. So I love to see that now. Have you taken any of that? Have you done any swing trading since the challenge? I know it was recently, but have
I,
you
I
paper
haven't
traded it more?
I haven't yet, but I've definitely been. It's kind of something I've been thinking about, developing in my mind, kind of putting together this idea because I do notice sometimes as the market shifts, there's always these few like runners or strong stocks that seem to get really good continuation. And most of the time they don't. And it ends up like if you were to hold a lot of these stocks that we trade low floaters
Yeah.
for overnight, it's like the riskiest thing you could do. And you hear that a lot in communities of traders that trade low floaters all the time. But every once in a while you get these stocks, and I feel like it always kind of happens around the same time where a few different stocks will kind of get some continuation going in strength. So it's not something I've tried yet, but it's definitely something I've been on the lookout for, and I've been more kind of aware of looking for some of these plays, low float plays that could possibly be more like swing trade type plays, especially since like now I'm only trading in a small account to get more practice, and that also lends itself to trading in a simulator, which I'll probably consider more now that I've had exposure to it and I see how easy it is to kind of go into the brokerage plus tool and just mess around with it. Um, but yeah, since I'm kind of using a small account, it's definitely interesting to see how can I maybe take what I'm currently doing and change it just slightly to give it that boost.
Yeah. And and hopefully you compete in more challenges, right? Because we're having one. The plan is every month, so hopefully that will keep you interested in growing this strategy. Now, when it came to, you talked a lot about that you're a momentum trader. So, RVSN, which I brought up on the screen there, was a crazy momentum play for a while.
Yeah.
You mentioned a lot of these that do just, they have 1, maybe 2 days of action and then they're completely right back down. So, what tool in Trade Ideas did you use in order to find these types of plays? Like, where was, you open up the platform, what either scan type or dashboard, or where did you go to make sure that you weren't missing out on these?
Yeah, so I guess another shout out to Barry Einerson there because he has a lot of these pre set up scanners. Like he has the Momo scanner, he has
Hmm.
the 10-day daily breakout, abnormal options activity, and you can really like once you download Trade Ideas, or I guess some people use the web app. Once you're kind of in there, you can just it's really easy to just go and set these up, take them right off of the website, and so I typically use like a lot of those. I'll have my own layout where I've tweaked some things, but it's pretty much that as a base, and also there's a pre-market scanner. I like to use that a lot recently because it seems like a lot of action takes place pre-market
Yeah.
with some of these momentum stocks. So yeah, it's really like a lot of those preloaded scanners that I typically gravitate toward to find all of these good momentum plays. I think it really captures pretty much everything that you need. When I kind of go check in on other people who are trading these types of stocks on different platforms, I'm always seeing the same stuff they are. So
Yeah.
these skins are as good as anything, I think.
Yeah, and that makes sense because there's always a stock du jour. There's always a theme of the day, right?
Exactly.
This
Yeah.
this one's the one moving. Personally, and again, I'll shout out Barry as well. We'll try not to make his head too big in this interview, but
Right.
I really do like that 10-day breakout scanner. And for just the audience, it's you can find it on our website. It's a great scanner that's looking for a break of either 10 days high or 10-day lows, but he has a lot of volume type filters in it. So it can't just
Yeah.
be meandering through that level. It has to really be going with a lot of momentum and a lot of volume behind it, which really makes me think. So, did you
Yeah.
just take those scanners and use them as is? Did you modify them at all for any of what you were trying to do in the contest, or have you modified them since for any of your own trading?
I haven't really modified them yet. As they are right now, I kind of like them as is. I know you can kind of tweak volume. You could tweak relative volume is a big one. Some people like to tweak. But I just like having all the data there. And then what's always nice too is you can kind of like go through each parameter and double click the column and it'll just sort it the way you want it to be sorted. So I'll do some of that. Like I'll sort it on low floaters or I'll sort it on relative volume, that sort of thing, just to kind of get a different presentation of what's going on. But I haven't really gotten into going to the settings and really tweaking these, but they're definitely very customizable. So it's something I intend to get to at some point.
Well, and because my question there was going to be with an engineer's mindset, I'm sure tinkering and process and playing with these things are probably something that's been kind of programmed into you at this point.
It is,
So
yeah.
I wonder how, from a process point of view, when you were coming up with these strategies, so you're using these momentum, high relative volume to find what stocks to trade, but how did you come up with your process of when to enter and when to exit? Was it back testing, trial and error, learning from others? Like, how did you actually get the nitty gritty details down?
A lot of it's trial and error and learning from others, watching other people do it, trying it myself. I keep track of every trade I do. I like to use
Great.
journals. I've read tons of books on not just trading and trading psychology, but just like self help psychology books in general. A big thing that like I feel has shaped my strategy is understanding. Um, chart patterns and understanding trend lines and really learning kind of what's in play more because sometimes you can kind of trick yourself into thinking you kind of have like this confirmation bias of like, oh, I'm looking for this type of chart pattern, and it just never really seems to be like you try every time you try it, it doesn't work out. So you really have to see which patterns and trends are actually getting resolved at this moment in time in the market. So that to me is kind of like the big problem solving game that I'm always going through. Um, and yeah, you kind of mentioned process too, where it's like, I almost have to restrain myself from the tendency to want to go in and tweak everything all the time because there is some of that like there is something to be said for like consistency and if it's not broke don't fix it and just change one little thing at a time and see how it goes. Information overload can definitely play against you sometimes.
A great book on that topic, because you mentioned books, that has nothing to do with trading that I love is called Golf Isn't a Game of Perfect. And it's that same
Huh,
idea of you can't expect to get up to the tee and hit a hole in one every time. You just can't do it,
exactly.
right? So you're not striving for that. And for traders, I think it's the same thing with win rate. A lot of people, a lot you want to see traders, and they'll go through and maybe they'll have a 70% win rate that day, and they're focused on those trades that didn't work, as opposed to just saying, that's great. Let me just
That's
continue
a
to
great win
to
rate.
focus on that. Another
Right.
thing I wanted to hit on is your journaling. We always highly recommend that traders keep a journal, even if it's an old moleskin notebook or something, but write down your reason for entry, your reason for
Yeah.
exit. Otherwise, you don't know where to improve from.
Right. I love to
But
say, what I did good, what I did bad, that, in that trade, all that stuff. Yep.
Well, and that kind of leads me to, so you mentioned books. So I love that you mentioned psychology books, because really at the end of the game, as you mentioned, we're all searching for these high volume breakouts. We believe Trade Ideas does that better than everyone else, but you're right that the whole world from the retail trading point of view is focused on these. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of the difference with traders comes from how they're dealing with everything mentally. So can you give maybe your top trading book and your top mentality or psychology book that you read that you liked?
Oof. Top trading book. I think, I can't remember it's a really old book. It's by, like, I can't remember his name, Alexander something, like How to Trade. I'm horrible with books that I
It's
haven't read in a
Alexander
long time.
Elder. How to
Alexander Elder.
how to make money in stocks? Is that the
I I think that's it. Yeah, it's definitely Alexander Elder. That's probably like the go-to trading book, and I really like that one because it's very high level. And I've read a lot of other books that go deep into chart patterns and trend lines and all that, but that one really kind of hits on every point from like a higher level standpoint. That's it right there. Trading for a
yes?
living. Yep.
Yeah, I love this one because it mentions the two, you can see right on the front, the two major things that I think are important, which is psychology and money management, and a good focus on both of those because,
Yeah.
with a 50% win rate in this game, you can do fine if the psychology and the money management are on tack. So that's a great
Yeah.
one for trading. Now, do you have one for psychology? If not, I've got a whole
I'll
bunch.
I'll have to throw in what I'm reading right now. I think it's called Willpower or something like that.
Okay.
You can definitely look it up. It's by two psychologists. I'm going to completely forget their names, but I just got it off of Spotify recently, and it's really good. Um, they go into kind of like a lot of social science studies that have been done on like how willpower. That's it right there. Yep.
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Um, how it kind of manifests itself in different people, and like how self control can really like permeate your life if you apply it to one area in life, it kind of permeates through to the rest of your life, and just how to exercise your willpower as a muscle. I find that fascinating. They give tons of great tips on how you can practice your willpower. And I think it's so important. They don't talk about trading at all in that book, but there's so many there's so many like translations to trading throughout that book because I'm always thinking of like, how do I keep myself from getting frustrated on days where I'm not doing so hot? And how do I keep myself from maybe taking too much risk after a good win streak?
Hmm.
All those things play very much into self control and just learning how to exercise that muscle in your mind throughout your life in different ways. I think always translates to your trading habits.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I always go to, just if you haven't read these, Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas is a
Yep,
absolute,
I did read that one.
yeah,
Yep.
it's the Bible, I think, of trading. That one's
Yes.
phenomenal. From the psychology point of view, I'll go to another one that I'm reading right now, which is Thinking in Bets. I
Okay.
forget the author's name, but she's a very famous poker player, and you can see a lot of the same aspects. She talks a lot about you could do everything correctly, and you could have pocket aces, and you could play the whole game correctly and still lose, right? And it's kind of the
Yes.
same thing with trading, where it could be the
Absolutely.
exact setup you're looking for, everything's lined up, you hit the button, and it reverses, and you're stopped out. So that's a really, really good one as well. So
You see it all the
this,
time. People on those stocks that fly like 150, 200% in a day, and somehow you're the one who lost money on it.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and that actually leads me back to the contest, which was interesting because I'm sure you saw there was, I don't know how much time you spent looking at the leaderboard. I know I spend the whole
Quite
time
a
the
bit.
contest
Yeah.
is on. But there was two things that I thought was interesting in the leaderboard I wanted to chat about. First of all, I'm sure you saw there was a gentleman who was up like $500,000 at some point, the absolute top of the leaderboard, and then completely crashed and went off. That to me is interesting, and I wonder, the problem I saw there looking into the trades was exit points. And this is the question that I get when I'm talking to traders all the time is, okay, you've identified, you use trade ideas, you find the thing that's breaking out with a whole lot of volume, you find a good entry point for it. Where do you take profits? And I'm going to ask, I think going forward, every trader that I hear from this, because I've been doing this since 2006 and I still don't have a good answer. I have the generic answer of, you sell a little bit on the way up and then you maybe
Yeah.
trail
Yeah.
for the rest. But I am very interested to hear if somebody's kind of figured this out, because I think it's the hardest part of trading. So what was your exit style? What stopped you from, just to compare, because that one gentleman who did really really well and then crashed off, I noticed when I saw your trading, it was way more consistent. There was way more consistent kind of uptrends, and then you had a big spike at the end there.
Yeah.
But that made it really interesting to me. So again, what was your exit strategy?
Well, I think again, being like a momentum style trader, it's always in the back of my mind like it's only a matter of time before this thing tanks. So the longer I spend in the trade, the more risk exposure I have. Um, I'm always of the mindset like I don't have that perfect answer either of like when's the best time to take profits. Some people like to use like a 3 to 1 or 2 to 1 profit loss ratio. Like they set their stop loss and then they'll say, okay, well, if this is my stop loss, I want at least twice that for my profit. But that doesn't always work out well
Hmm.
from a win rate perspective. So I just always like to take the perspective of I'd rather take a small profit and watch the stock run without me than watch a winner turn into a loser because having felt both of those feelings, I know which one I don't like to feel
Yeah.
more, which is definitely turning a profit into a loss, right?
See,
So
and
it's almost a feel, that's what I'd say.
this is, and I love that I'm doing these interview now, because this is fascinating. I know you haven't seen it because it hasn't come out by the time we were recording this, but I
Right.
interviewed Paul, the winner, in the last one, and we had the same conversation. He said pretty much the exact same thing,
Yeah.
where it was all for him about understanding what his goals were in the trade, which I'm looking to get in, I'm looking to get that meat in the middle of the move and then get out. And then if it goes another 50, 100% without me, that's fine. I made my money and I can
Right.
move on.
Right.
And he said the same thing where it was, for me, I would be more upset if I held it and it went all the way up to the top and then came all the way back down than if I just got out some and then, fast forward a day later or a couple hours later and it's higher, and that's great.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss without, in case anyone's looking at the leaderboard, talking about the other thing with the leaderboard I want to talk about, in which we did have a number two winner who just eked you out P&L wise, just a little
Yes.
bit, but didn't follow our rules. So I just wanted to have a moment to say, make sure you're reading all the rules. In this case, this person did not trade enough different instruments. And I noticed that you were in the live stream when we were talking about this, and you piped up as well. So how closely were you watching that and just hoping that he didn't spam a bunch of symbols at the end of the day? And I guess I just wanted to take the moment to reiterate to everybody, read the rules. Right?
Yeah, I think, I had noticed at some point during the day too that his profit, he had a little bit more realized profit than me, and his unrealized profit was tracking with mine. So at some point I realized, like, I wonder if he's in the same trade as me.
Yeah.
And but I did also take note of the fact that I don't know who this person was. Moment of silence for that person. But
It's always next time, right?
right, there's always next time, of course. But I did notice, like, he didn't heed any warnings. Like, I think you tracked in the leaderboard too, like where like how many positions each person had taken, and I noticed that he hadn't hit the 10. So I was like, oh well, maybe on a technicality I might take the second place. So I didn't worry too much about that. But I was definitely paying close attention to the leaderboard in general, just to kind of see where I stood, and how the interesting thing to me was having a large portion of my portfolio in RVSN, how much it fluctuated my spot, right, throughout
We
the, I think, 2 days that I was in there.
Yeah, we were talking about that, me and Steve. I don't know if you caught that or if you joined in later on the live stream. We were talking about that the whole time, that
Yeah,
number 2 and 3, it's like you basically had the same position.
right.
So it
Yeah, I
was
think once
all
you
about.
said that and he didn't take any more trades, I was like, well, I don't. That person must not be paying attention, so I'm not going to worry about it. Just
Yeah.
stick to my strategy.
No, and again, that's important, right? We make these rules for a reason. There is a master plan behind this. We're trying to guide people again into more strategy development and playing,
Yeah,
which, leads me to our next challenge, which I don't think we've announced officially yet, but we'll talk about here, where last time it was long only. This time it is short only. So you will
that's going to
not be allowed to buy any positions. Now, first of all, are you going to enter? I certainly hope you are. And then, second of all, how do you think you're going to navigate that? Because it looks like right now you're a long only kind of momentum trader. You've got a couple weeks. I'm just looking at my watch, but you got a couple weeks. Are you going to try to reverse your current strategy? Do you already have a short strategy you're using elsewhere, or are you going to try to make one up before the
I
contest?
I might have to test some short strategies out, because I'm definitely going to enter. I feel like, as you mentioned before, this kind of whole contest competition does add a little bit of stakes to trading with a simulator. So that definitely makes it feel like there's, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
There's bragging rights involved with the competition, and there's a nice prize. So it definitely makes it interesting to do it. And I've definitely I was wondering if you guys were going to do that, if you were going to, like, go back to shorting. And I think that would be a great opportunity for me to test out a short strategy. I don't have a particular one in mind. Maybe fading some of these momentum plays when I think they're kind of done for the day. But I've always wanted to try shorting. I've never really tried it in a margin account, because I don't think I have the tolerance of risk,
Yeah.
in a live trading setting. But it's definitely something I've always wanted to kind of get into, because if you can, if you understand the long side of things and you can make money, then shorting is is basically the reversal, right? So as long as you can kind of get your timing right, but I'm sure there's a lot that I'm going to learn if I give it a test run where I'll see exactly where maybe some pitfalls in my thinking are.
Yeah, and the only thing that I can say for people, the audience that are looking at that and saying, okay, well now I have to figure out a short only, is understand the old trading adage, which it's staircase up and elevator down. So
Right.
right?
Yes.
When it comes, especially with these lower float ones, I think that when the strategy that I'm looking at and working on anyway is probably going to be the same as you, where I'm going to use the momentum scanners and trade ideas to find stocks that over the last few days we're doing all this crazy stuff, and then looking for them to reverse. Because let's actually just go to this RVSN
That's a perfect
again.
example right there.
Yeah, so if we go in here, it was the same thing. It was this area right here in which we were trading it for the contest. I think it was these 2 days. And you can
Yep.
see day after it absolutely spiked. But after this day, and I don't know if the move is going to be to wait for this day to complete, but after this day where you can, real blow off top, you're talking from $15 all the way up to 25 and then reverses. If you if you were looking to short on these next 2 days, you got really good opportunities. So I think this is what I'm going to do. There's many ways to do this in trade ideas. Again, if anyone in the audience is wondering, make
Yep.
sure you come to our live stream. But that's my plan, is I'm going to watch the couple days before the contest and build my own list of potential shorts, and then go into each trading day with that list and look for a blow off type day, and then kind of look for short the next day. Anyway, that's what I'm going to do. But you'll notice I wasn't on the leaderboard this time, so I don't know what I should talk about. But we are going to keep, you mentioned, you were hoping that we were going to allow long and short in there. That's our plan, is going to be constantly updating rules, constantly shifting
Cool.
landscapes. You may at some point have to hold for multiple days. You won't be allowed to exit on the same day to work on swing trading or longer term investing. And what we hope is that we're guiding people to experiment in paper, and that eventually, if you compete in enough of these tournaments, you find a strategy that really works. Like the winner of the last one that I talked about, Lazar, was exclusively short, so he's going to love this contest. He's going to come in
Oh,
ready
great.
to go, because the idea is that if you are getting pulled outside of your comfort zone, that's good if you're an experienced trader. But if you're a new trader getting pushed in all of these different directions, the hope is that you kind of hit one and you hit a contest. You go, okay, this makes sense to me. This is the way that I want to trade, and it goes from there. So, last question before I let you go is, second place winner. There was hundreds of people in this contest, so an absolute amazing achievement. Do you have any advice for your competition that's going to go into the next one, on ways that you might win, obviously, but also in ways that you might adapt your mindset to a challenge, a trading challenge or a trading competition away from normal trading?
Yeah, I'd say it's a good opportunity to experiment with your strategy. That's for sure. It's definitely also a good arena to kind of see where you stack up against everybody else. And as far as my own personal strategy goes, knowing that there will be long and short, I'll definitely be taking some short
No, no,
position.
sorry. No long,
Uh,
short only. There is no
Short
long.
only, no
Yeah,
long. Okay,
no
all
long
right.
at
In that
all.
case, I'll have to take short positions.
Yeah,
Yeah, and in that case, I'll definitely be tweaking my strategy quite a bit. So I guess just have to keep an eye out for how these like gap and reverse scanners work out for me.
it's awesome. So again, you've got a couple weeks to hone that strategy, and we're pumped for the next challenge. We're gonna probably do more live streaming to give more of that live content as well. We are glad you were able to check that out, and I just want to thank you for coming by, and hopefully I'll see you back here soon.
Yeah, maybe. Hopefully,
Have a good one.
you too.